I've been sending emails maybe the traditional way, or I have an email list, I have a newsletter, maybe I'm doing direct mail, but how do I start reaching out to people contextually? And so what I would say with that is you would need to add AI to that as well. So there's already some vendors that have the software, have everything, the emails, but then on top of that, they're adding AI to personalize the emails. And so you'll get an email saying, Romulo, we noticed Create 180 is expanding from this market to this market. We've noticed you acquired new clients in this space. And then you feel like that email is completely personalized.
You're about to hear a conversation between two agency owners who collectively have over 30 years of experience helping brands sell millions of dollars. Enjoy the episode.
So what we're talking about is like there's a new phenomenon, right, in business where like all these baby boomers, or maybe 70, 80, some even 65, they're looking to retire. And part of the problem is they've got a lot of them have small businesses or medium-sized businesses that they've built over 10, 20 years or more. And so roof insulation, I don't know, pool cleaning, like, they're just very different businesses, right? And they want to try and sell it. And so there's a big buyer's market, which means there's a lot of people selling because these boomers are retiring, like they're reaching that age, but their kids don't want to work in the business, for example. So they have kids, but the kids like, I went to college, I'm an engineer, I'm working for Tesla, or,
Yeah,
I'm an
I
investment
don't.
bank. I live in New York. Like, I'm not going to go back home to do pool maintenance.
Yeah,
Um,
manage a booming. Yeah, think like a phone business. Like
yeah.
even if you do have like, hey, I have a landscape business. Like maybe that's not where I
Yeah.
want to
And
hold
I,
that.
and I guess, yeah. And then these businesses don't sound very appealing when you're starting out and maybe you have to build a business because like, you might have to mow some lawns yourself. But we're talking businesses that are already established, like they're doing millions of dollars in sales. Like it's not like they're coming home to mow the lawn. But they don't want to run that business. Like that's not what they're into. And so these boomers are like, okay, if I can't sell, if my business isn't big enough to sell to private equity, my kids don't want it, I'm just gonna have to like sell it on the market to like whoever wants to buy this. And so what's happening is there's like this big transition going on. I think it's like $1 trillion or more of
Yeah,
money being transferred from boomers owning small businesses and trying to sell it. And some of them are like, I'm gonna have to shut this down. Like nobody wants it. I can't sell it at the price I need to sell it at to, sort of live comfortably. And so some people are taking advantage of that and saying, okay, let me go in there, see if I can buy the business, but let me get seller financing. Let me see if this baby boomer who's selling, this retiring, can, maybe stay on for a year, show me the ropes, etc. And then I'm going to pay him or her, a monthly fee for a couple of
and
years, and they live off of that. And then the rest of the stuff, like, I can get some seller financing. The banks put the other part. So the baby boomer is getting a chunk of the money, but then he's also having to finance a big chunk of it as well because there's nobody willing to buy it, right? And so it's just interesting because I also think part of the playbook there is to understand marketing well enough to go into these businesses, and not just marketing, just technology as well. And some of these companies don't have like, they don't have social media sometimes. They don't have a proper website.
they probably still balance checkbooks and do
yeah.
everything
They
even
do
in
like
Excel.
things
So
manually. They don't have like, email automation. They don't, I mean, there's a lot of stuff
they
that can really help these businesses streamline their operations and be more profitable. Um,
or even a lot of them are just like, hey, talking about like CPA firms, for example. It's always like, well, Jimmy has always done my taxes. He's
yeah,
my accountant for the past 25 years. Do you have a contract with him? No, we don't have contract with people because
yeah,
people used to come back and say, well, I love it. However, your business is not, we're not going to buy your business because the portfolio of clients that you have are not in contract with me. So it's always about,
yeah. So
do
based on
you
your
know that I could be your next team? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and so these people that are selling the businesses have to go through all these things, where they have to say like, okay, I'll stay on board. You know, you still use my name. Um, I'll help you transition. I won't get all the money up front. I'll finance it for you. They're doing all these different things just to try and figure out a way out of the situation they're in, which is they want to retire, like they're old, like they don't want to keep running the business, like they just can't, right? Um, and so I think it's an interesting opportunity to bring in technology to these companies, but to also bring in marketing, right? Like the branding and reaching people on digital and content marketing. Like there's this whole opportunity to say like, look, I'm gonna apply the modern marketing stack on top of these businesses and make it grow. And so maybe you're buying a business that's doing $5 million a year, and maybe you could take it to 8 or 10 um, by expanding its market.
It makes sense too, especially because you're buying a business that is already fundamentally sound. So they're doing the business well. Like again, these, roofing or whatever. They already have the materials. They already know their suppliers. They already have contracts. They already. So all of those pieces are just working properly. All they really need is just like, okay, so how do we make you, it could be a rebrand. How do we make you pretty more appealing to your target market, et cetera? Or how do we make you relevant to this day and age? As,
Yeah.
for my, before it was like, hey, who did your roof? Oh, so and so, rather than that, now people are just going to, that internet web or whatever, social media, however, to pretty much find out who it is. And like the biggest thing here, for example, for that type of handyman or job sites and all stuff, it's where I live, for example, is it's a forum. It's like a Facebook group where a bunch of neighbors are together. And they're like, hey, so who cuts your dog's hair? Who cleans your pool? Who did your roof? Who do you call for a air conditioning? Who does your all of that is pretty much within a group of people that are already talking about you. So it's just getting into things like that.
Yeah.
That's smaller. But with the thing that you're saying, a lot of it too. I have seen two things. I've seen businesses also sell like um, medical businesses, like pediatricians or primary care doctors that either are like, okay, so there's this big corporation who wants to buy me, so I either can try to fight them or pretty much sell myself to them so that they can buy me, and then I already made my business, made my money, and keep work as you say, keep working for the business until I decide, what, and like, hey, that's happening. That's happening on that other side, which is, you know. But the other one too is a lot of people. I do understand that a lot of people are like, what, I want to do my own. I want to make my own money. I want to do my own dream. I want to make my own, my own company. Or growing up, I grew up with parents who were, both entrepreneurs, and I just don't think that that's the life that I want for me and my kids. Therefore, I want to switch. So I see all these people trying to sell their business and trying to find people who are like, yeah. So you're saying, I mean, you're saying that there is a point of buying a business like that and then making it marketable and then bringing it to a 20%. It is, it's very interesting. I mean, people do talk, they're not going to our door to like, say, hey, are you interested in selling your business? And it's part of a conglomerate trying to just get as many employee marketing agencies or just for name here, and then they go ahead and just take over. I also I read an article about the it starts with a comparison of like Oakley, and Oakley being one of the few companies that still make their sunglasses, and because there's a bigger company that pretty much does all sunglasses. So they own Ray-Ban, they own Maui, whatever, they own a whole bunch of them. And they're saying, well, this is happening to small stores, particularly bicycle stores. And bicycle stores, it's one of those things that still has that feeling that you go into like, hi, this is a mom, operated, shop for the last, 35 years. Or, my mom had this bike shop and now I own it and now I'm from working on it. But then now it's like, okay, well, we're going to be, X company, we're going to buy it from you. You can still work on it or whatever, as we talk about, but now it's not that independence, the independent portion of it. It's just pretty much, sold out and gone. So the magic of buying from mom and pop, it's, kind of
Fading.
disappearing too.
Yeah. 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 So that's one of the things that like I think are worth mentioning because I think there are even if you don't want to sell the business, there's still like a modern marketing stack that you can layer on top. And maybe we can talk about like what that would mean. Like, let's say I'm a company and I'm doing maybe $10 million a year and like it's going well, but I want to grow it so that I can eventually sell to private equity or maybe I'm doing less, maybe I'm doing five, like whatever the number is, right? Um, what would be, and I'm sure you're doing some marketing, right? If you're at those levels and
Oh,
you
are you
say,
talking about? I am looking to my exit strategy. Like I want to build my business to have a marketable exit strategy. Or
no,
you're talking about more like,
not
I want to have my
necessarily.
business and I want to grow it. How do I exponentially grow it? And it's like, well, are you at the level that marketing now? Are you still playing 1999 marketing or you 2024 marketing?
Yeah,
Is that the
yeah.
question?
So I think it's more like, yeah, I think it's reconsidering what you're doing in marketing in the face of like these new technological changes and what are those things that maybe you need to be applying to that marketing strategy that most small to medium sized businesses are doing. And I think the sort of the new ones, the more recent ones, or the ones maybe being led by younger people, are most likely doing some sort of version of Instagram, try and get clients. Um, they understand that they have to be posting and everything, but it feels like there are all these different avenues that they could be exploring, but they're not. They're just sort of playing the typical game of marketing, which is
The catch-up game.
yeah. So I do Instagram maybe, and then maybe if you're a bit older, you're doing direct mail. Um,
I thought
most
you were going to say, if you have been already probably doing Facebook.
maybe yeah, maybe Facebook, or maybe like you're saying to yourself, well, I don't really do a lot of marketing. It's all word of mouth, like, and that's great. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's fine. but but you can accelerate your growth if you layer on top of everything you're doing, you layer on some new forms of doing marketing. So maybe we can talk about that. So one of the things I think a lot of like new companies are doing, and that's in startups as well, is the whole outbound idea, right? So and you could argue that's more sales, not marketing, but it feels like there's this new way of doing outbound, which isn't just let me call people because there's new generations like like to be texted, they don't like to be called, and I think so this whole outbound um, strategies are more focused now on email. So let's just email 1,000 people. Let's email 3,000 people, and it's a numbers game, right? So if I email a bunch of people within the funnel, at some point I get some conversions. You're spamming basically a bunch of people.
No,
Um,
and email lists that are good email lists, that is not cheap either.
yeah, right. So you have to buy these lists, and there's a bunch of companies in the space, like tons of
You know,
companies that either sell you the list or have the software to send the emails out. Um, and they've gotten very good at it, right? Because I don't know if you know this, but oh, I'm sure you know, but like I don't know if the audience knows, but like before, uh, if you started sending emails from one domain and your domain got marked as spam, like your deliverability
that's
would plummet basically. Now these companies give you domains and they, like they warm up your emails so they land properly. Like there's this whole science behind that, and so I think that's one of the few things where maybe it's worth exploring and saying, okay, I've been sending emails maybe the traditional way, or I have an email list, I have a newsletter, maybe I'm doing direct mail, but how do I start reaching out to people contextually? And so what I would say with that is you would need to add AI to that as well. So there's already some vendors that have the software, have everything, the emails, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then on top of that, they're adding AI to personalize the emails. And so you'll get an email saying, Romulo, we noticed Create 180 is expanding from this market to this market. We've noticed you acquire new clients in this space, etc. And then considering you're working with these type of companies, we'd like to partner with you to deliver more value to them by doing this. And then you feel like that email is completely personalized. Like
The
that's
person did right.
yeah. That's total that's for me. Like they've researched, they saw who I was doing business with, they looked at my website, blah, blah, blah. And now they're emailing, they're reaching out. And so the probability that you answer that email is higher because you feel like it's really for you. Um, but maybe they're doing all of that with AI. So the AI is actually, and we talked about this, right? The agents, they're going into your website, they're seeing the new logos that you've placed compared to the last 3 months. If you have more new logos on your website, they're looking at your LinkedIn, your Instagram, whatever your social media for the business is. They might even be looking at like, records of where you're doing business, if that's possible, like community.
I've seen I've seen you open these emails now, and it's like, so while visiting your website, I noticed this, and then they show the video of you clicking in a certain place, and then kind of navigating to your homepage, and you're like, cool, they went to my website, but it's an AI because it's a bot because it just pretty much it goes and does the same thing over and over, and it's like, but at least it looks like, as you're saying, it gives you a little more of a personalized touch.
Yeah, yeah. And so what I think is going to happen, and it's already happening, but I think it's going to happen a lot for the rest of the year, probably the year after, is the people already doing outbound are going to adapt the AI strategy. So, what I would say for
Yes.
smaller medium businesses is if you're already doing outbound, perfect, add AI to it. If you're not doing outbound, you still need to like jump and skip the whole traditional outbound and just go straight to AI assisted outbound so that you can take advantage of that because as we've mentioned before on the show, like marketing has windows of opportunities. And so and there's a saying, right, that marketers ruin everything because if something's working, people just pound on that and then
Right, that's
you
it.
ruin it. And I think like the whole personalized email AI thing is going to have a window of like maybe 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years. Um, but it's not.
I think probably a little bit more, but you do bring a really good point. It's like, okay, wow, I'm finding out about MySpace right now. It's like, well, you are way past that. So like, it's these things about, really trying to become an influencer, now in Instagram. Well, you are 7 years too late to
Yeah,
even
your
make
ability.
this system. Now, not to discourage people who do have great content and they can become influencers and all that, but it's not as the authority leader in a certain aspect. Either somebody else has already talked about it and created a post or developed something like that, or it's just a game that maybe it's not the right time to do it anymore. You might have to like look into that. I do agree. I mean, if you're going to do outbound, now it's a time to say, okay, well, let me start from scratch, but let me start from scratch from a new platform, going into AI, and then really leveraging as much possible of the good things that it's happening right now, and then
Yeah,
investing.
yeah, and so it's tough because sometimes you're so stuck in the past that it's hard to jump. But I think the the um, the strategy for companies that aren't executing on the current marketing stack is they need to sort of leapfrog what everyone's doing now and sort of try and do what would be something a little bit more future proof and that has a bigger window of opportunity. And within that, I think I don't know if you saw this, but there's a new what's it called again? I think it's called Air Chat. Have you seen this? Yeah, it's called Air Chat. It's a new it's a new sort of a communication tool. It's like a new social media, so they're calling it, and it's all based on voice. And you need an invite to get in, and apparently it's growing quickly. These things
I think
sometimes.
I've seen this, but it wasn't called the one that I saw wasn't called Chat, but it is one of those that pretty much people they kind of run, some sort of to lack of the word, like a podcast kind of thing, and then people are just kind of jumping in, and it has that social element to it that you open a room and it's like, okay, we're gonna talk about cars today, and then everybody just kind of like shares their voice and then try to have a conversation.
Yeah, and so sometimes these platforms sort of grow, they have a peak, and then they fall off. So we don't know if AirChat's going to have like staying power, but there's a lot of people already opening up their profiles on AirChat, and opening up that other avenue, and seeing what's in there, and seeing if there's user growth and retention and all these things. And that's very early, I would say. I think you still have time to adapt to that. But if you want to leapfrog, maybe that's an option. Maybe you say to yourself, look, I'm going to open up air chat right away for my business, and I'm going to see who's there, and I'm going to get the early adopters. And
Yeah.
maybe at the beginning it's just easier, right? Like there's less people, it's growing, so there's more interest, and then it's, if your brand is there, you're able to do that, maybe it's just easier to continue to communicate.
I tried that strategy a few months back with Mammoth. I don't know if
Mhm.
you heard
Yeah,
this. So I started, but then when I got there, I was just like, "Hey, everybody, Romulo Martinez, K180 right here, blah, blah, blah." And then I just realized that it was very that the people there are pretty much from Scandinavia, like either Norwegian or Finnish or Danish, and they do speak English, but at the same time, they like the space is pretty much very very sold out for that area of the world. So I was just like, well, you know what?
yeah.
You know, yeah,
And I think it's hard to do because you're opening up a new avenue. And so if you're not used to marketing, it's like, oh, now I have to do this. So I'm doing Instagram, doing like maybe Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm doing all these different things, right? Twitter, etc. And then a new channel opens up, and now I have to, now it's voice. So I have to figure out a way to, you know, get in front of an audience through voice and be there. And maybe it has to be spontaneous, and it's not really like it's
and
hard.
you also have the whole. Well, they already know what I look like. How are they going to get my voice too? There's always this paranoia. This is the new thing. There's a lot
Yeah.
of you either have people when you sit down and dinner, you either have people who are pro, like we are pro AI, and well, this is what the future is leading to. So better jump in on it and can adapt and learn from it, and get comfortable with it because this is what we're leading to. Versus the whole people who are like, well, I don't want them to know about they already know what I look like. I don't want them to know what I sound like. I don't want them to pretty much
Yeah. Yeah.
be able to emulate me. And I'm like, what is your biggest fear? And it's like, well, I'm very afraid that they call my bank and that they make a purchase for a brand new Rolls Royce on my name just because they got my face, they got my voice, and I'm like, well,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a very huge jump for that fear, but people have that fear
Yeah.
with that AI. All this stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's you don't have to be like a prompt engineer or anything like that. You just have to like understand where those new opportunities are opening up. So if you're on Twitter consuming information, you'll realize, oh, air chat's coming. If you're listening to this podcast, if like, oh, so there's this new thing called air chat. Let me go in and let me tell my marketing person to go in and explore, open up a profile, and just hang out for a few days, see what that's like, see what gets traction, what the sort of the culture of the social media platform is, right? So if you, what I mean by culture is, if you go to Twitter, you'll notice Twitter is sort of sarcastic, a little funny, sometimes really rough, but it's got its
Try
own.
to be clever snippets. Boom, boom.
Yeah, it's got its own little world as to how to respond to comments, how to be cheeky and clever and all these things. And that's maybe somewhat very different from what LinkedIn is like. And so you spend a few days there, understand how the platform works, and then, try and executing some things, hopefully adding value, not just selling yourself, but adding value by doing content, etc. and then see if like first of all, see if your company sort of matches that, and you can say, okay, like we could be good at this, we could be very, very good at this, or not. And also, is my
Okay.
audience there, obviously, and then thirdly, I would say like, do I have the resources to be here? And
I think
where can I if my resources are sort of maxed out, like where can I lower the volume of production in one area and maybe focus on this where this could be a big opportunity. Obviously, these things, as I mentioned before, like they can skyrocket and then fall, but you can probably like take advantage of the fact that more and more users are piling on, and you're one of the first ones there, right?
definitely you do have I mean, the first time you're engaging in all that stuff, then you have that first, what's the name? The first comer. Oh my god, I'm forgetting the terminology, but it is like the fact that you enter the market first.
Yeah.
Then you actually have more advantage than other
Yeah.
people. Um, I also think that with these type of social medias and all that, pretty much nothing. My personal experience is that they're like, well, you know what? Find the right social media place for you. Like if you like pictures and you want, use Instagram. If you like more of like, photography and just, design art, maybe Pinterest is for you. And if you are cheeky and you can write things really quick, in Twitter. So they always have these thing about like, well, which one is the right one that fits me? Um, and honestly, me personally, I always try to get that approach, and I'm like, well, you know what, really like, I prefer to doing this than that, and I think all of them, you need to do a trial and error. You
Yeah.
need to go in and try it out, and then see if the system works for you, if it is something easy for you to create content, if it's something that you can actually, as you're saying before, add value to, because if you're just gonna be there and just kind of, I remember in Instagram, you kind of like start following trends and you're trying to jump in on those contents like that. And there's also other venues too that you can actually explore. If it's, for your own research, like Reddit, for example. Reddit becomes in its own a
Yeah.
place where you can gain knowledge and you can share knowledge, and in its way, maybe you're not doing any per se ads, but if you're really trying to build an authority, it's a really good place to like, get that